The morning sun was just beginning to peek through the curtains of Margaret Jones' small cottage when her old radio crackled to life with the daily news. She had been living in the quiet Welsh village of Llanfairpwll for 70 long years and had seen many changes come and go. But nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to hear on that ordinary Tuesday morning. As Margaret stirred her morning tea and reached for her favorite biscuit tin, the radio announcer spoke in an excited voice that made her stop everything she was doing. Prince William and Princess Kate would be visiting their tiny village in just a few hours. Not next week or next month, but today. Right now, this very afternoon. Margaret nearly dropped her teacup as the words sank in. She had to sit down in her favorite armchair because her legs suddenly felt weak with shock and excitement. In all her 70 years of living in Llanfairpwll, she had never imagined that real royalty would come to their small forgotten corner of Wales. Her hands shaking with excitement, Margaret immediately picked up her old telephone and dialed her neighbor, Mrs. Sarah Williams, who lived just 3 houses down the lane. The phone rang twice before Sarah answered with her usual cheerful voice. Margaret could barely contain her excitement as she shared the incredible news. Sarah gasped so loudly that Margaret had to hold the phone away from her ear. Within minutes, both women were talking at the same time, trying to make sense of this amazing announcement that had just changed their ordinary day into something extraordinary. Sarah quickly hung up, promising to call her sister, who lived on the other side of the village. Margaret did the same, calling her friend David Evans, who ran the small flower shop near the post office. Each person who received the news felt the same mixture of disbelief and pure joy that Margaret had experienced. The news spread through the village faster than wildfire on a dry summer day. Children walking to school heard their parents talking excitedly on doorsteps and started running to tell their friends. Shop owners stepped outside their stores to share the incredible news with anyone who would listen. Mrs. Roberts, who taught at the village primary school, received a phone call from the headmaster telling her about the royal visit. Without hesitation, she gathered all the children in the main hall and shared the exciting news with them. The children erupted in cheers and immediately began asking 100 questions all at once. At the village post office, Mr. Thomas, the postman, was just beginning his daily rounds when he heard the news from 3 different people within 5 minutes. He decided to change his route so he could personally deliver this amazing news to every house in the village along with their regular mail. The local baker, Mrs. Evans, heard about the royal visit while she was kneading dough for the day's bread. She immediately began planning what special treats she could prepare for the prince and princess. Her mind raced with possibilities as she thought about traditional Welsh cakes and sweet treats that would represent their village perfectly. Even the elderly residents at the small care home on Maple Street heard the news when one of the nurses rushed in with tears of joy in her eyes. The older residents who had lived through so much history suddenly felt young again, as they imagined meeting real royalty face to face. By mid-morning, the entire village was buzzing with excitement and nervous energy. People who rarely spoke to each other were now stopping in the streets to share their thoughts and feelings about this unexpected royal visit. Everyone wanted to know the same things. Why were William and Kate coming to their small village? How long would they stay? What should everyone wear? Should they bring flowers or gifts? But most importantly, everyone wondered if this was really happening, or if it was all just a wonderful dream that they would wake up from at any moment. The reality that Prince William and Princess Kate had chosen their humble little village felt almost too good to be true. Word continued to spread like magic dust through every corner of the village, and something beautiful began to happen. Without anyone telling them what to do, the people of Llanfairpwll started preparing for the royal visit in their own special ways. It was as if the entire community had suddenly become one big happy family working together toward the same wonderful goal. Mrs. Sarah Williams, who owned the small bakery on Church Street, made a decision that would change her entire day. She looked at the clock and realized she had only a few hours to create something truly special for Prince William and Princess Kate. Without a second thought, she rolled up her sleeves and began working harder than she had ever worked before. Sarah decided to make traditional Welsh cakes that her grandmother had taught her to prepare many years ago. She also began mixing ingredients for barabrith, which was a special Welsh fruit bread that took hours to bake properly. Even though her hands were tired and her back was aching, Sarah felt more energy than she had felt in months. She was determined to offer the royal couple a true taste of Welsh hospitality. While Sarah worked tirelessly in her bakery, the children of the village were creating their own special magic. 8-year-old Emma Thomas gathered her friends from school during their lunch break. They had a wonderful idea to make welcome signs for Prince William and Princess Kate. The children found poster boards and colorful crayons in their classroom art supplies. Each child worked carefully to create the most beautiful sign they could imagine. Emma drew big red hearts around the words, "Welcome Prince William and Princess Kate." Her friend Jamie added drawings of the Welsh dragon alongside pretty flowers. Little Lucy, who was only 6 years old, drew stick figures of the royal couple holding hands with big smiles on their faces. Other children wrote messages like "We love you" and "Thank you for coming" in their best handwriting. Some added drawings of castles and crowns, while others drew pictures of their village. Each sign was different and special in its own way, but all of them showed the pure love and excitement that the children felt in their hearts. Meanwhile, David Evans, who ran the flower shop, made a generous decision that surprised everyone in the village. He loaded his van with armfuls of fresh daffodils and beautiful red roses. David drove through the streets giving away flowers to anyone who wanted to welcome the royal couple properly. The village women took these flowers and began creating the most beautiful displays anyone had ever seen. They arranged bouquets along the main street where Prince William and Princess Kate would walk. They placed flowers in shop windows and even created a special archway of roses near the community center entrance. Even the elderly residents at the care home on Maple Street insisted on being part of this special day. The nurses helped them into their best clothes and wrapped them in warm blankets. Then they wheeled the older residents outside so they could wait along the street to see the royal couple. These elderly people had lived through so much history, and many of them had never seen real royalty before. They were determined not to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mrs. Elizabeth Morgan, who was 92 years old and had lived in the village longer than anyone else, felt tears of joy in her eyes. She had heard stories about royal visits from her mother and grandmother, but never dreamed she would experience one herself. The nurses made sure she had the best spot where she could see everything clearly. The postman changed his delivery route so he could help spread the news to every house. The bus driver decided to take a longer route through the village center so his passengers could see all the preparations. Even Dr. Richards, who ran the small medical clinic, closed his office early so he could join the celebration. Everything was coming together perfectly, as if the entire village had been practicing for this moment their whole lives. By early afternoon, the main street of Llanfairpwll had transformed into something magical that looked like a scene from a fairy tale. Everywhere you looked, there were smiling faces holding Union Jack flags and beautiful Welsh banners that fluttered gently in the afternoon breeze. The entire village had come alive with colors and excitement that nobody had ever seen before. 3 generations of families stood together along the sidewalks, creating the most heartwarming sight imaginable. Grandparents held their grandchildren in their arms while sharing stories about royal visits they remembered from many years ago. The children listened with wide eyes, full of wonder, as they learned about the history and importance of the royal family. Mrs. Jones stood with her daughter and granddaughter, creating a perfect picture of 3 generations united by this special moment. She told them about the day many years ago when she had seen Queen Elizabeth on television and how she had dreamed about meeting someone from the royal family. Now that dream was about to come true, and she could hardly believe it was really happening. The local school had received special permission to dismiss all classes early so the children could be part of this historic day. The teachers organized the excited students into neat rows along the sidewalk. Each child held a small flag or a handmade card they had created especially for Prince William and Princess Kate. Teacher Mrs. Roberts walked up and down the rows, making sure every child had a good view and reminding them to be polite and respectful when the royal couple arrived. The children were so excited they could barely stand still. They kept asking questions about what the prince and princess would look like and whether they could shake their hands. James Roberts, the local photographer, who usually took pictures at weddings and birthday parties, positioned himself carefully along the route. He knew this would be the most important day in the village history and wanted to capture every precious moment. James checked his camera equipment 3 times to make sure everything was working perfectly. He understood that these photographs would become treasured memories that families would keep forever. The village brass band had assembled for the first time in months, with members coming from 3 different neighboring towns. They practiced God Save the King one final time before taking their position near the community center entrance. The band members wore their best uniforms and polished their instruments until they gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. Mr. Davies, the band leader, felt nervous and excited at the same time. He had been playing music for 40 years, but had never performed for royalty before. He reminded his musicians to play with their hearts and to remember that this was a day they would talk about for the rest of their lives. Security personnel had arrived quietly and professionally, blending into the background while making sure everyone would be safe during the royal visit. They spoke politely to the villagers and helped organize the crowd without making anyone feel uncomfortable or restricted. The security team was impressed by how well-behaved and respectful all the villagers were. Weather reports had predicted rain for the afternoon, but something wonderful happened with the sky above Llanfairpwll. The dark clouds that had been gathering all morning seemed to move away, as if nature itself wanted to provide perfect weather for this special day. Bright sunshine broke through, creating beautiful golden light that made everything look even more magical. The energy in the air was something you could actually feel touching your skin like gentle electricity. Strangers talked to each other as if they were old friends. People shared food and drinks without being asked. Children played together regardless of their ages or which families they belonged to. Mrs. Williams from the bakery walked through the crowd, offering her fresh Welsh cakes to anyone who wanted to taste them. People thanked her with genuine warmth, and many said these were the best cakes they had ever eaten. The smell of her baking mixed with the scent of flowers, creating an atmosphere that felt like a perfect summer festival. The excitement continued to build as the afternoon progressed, and everyone began watching the end of the street for any sign of the royal car. Parents lifted small children onto their shoulders so they could see better. Teenagers who had initially tried to act cool and unimpressed found themselves moving closer to get the best possible view. Even visitors from neighboring towns who had driven over when they heard the news were welcomed warmly by the locals. Complete strangers offered to share their viewing spots and provided folding chairs for elderly visitors who needed to sit down. Everyone knew that something extraordinary was about to happen, and they wanted to be part of it together. At exactly 3:30 in the afternoon, everything in the village seemed to pause, as if time itself had decided to slow down for this magical moment. A sleek black car appeared at the end of the main street, moving slowly and carefully through the crowd of excited villagers. The atmosphere became electric with anticipation as everyone realized that Prince William and Princess Kate were actually inside that car. Children stopped talking and adults held their breath as the royal car came closer. Even the birds seemed to stop singing, as if they knew something very special was happening in the little village of Llanfairpwll. The only sounds were the gentle purring of the car engine and the soft rustling of flags in the afternoon breeze. When the car finally stopped and the doors opened, a collective gasp of pure joy rippled through the entire gathering like a wave of happiness spreading from person to person. Prince William stepped out first, looking relaxed and genuinely happy to be there. His warm smile immediately put everyone at ease and showed that he was truly pleased to visit their small community. Princess Kate emerged from the car wearing an elegant navy coat that complemented her natural beauty perfectly. Her smile was radiant and seemed to light up the entire street. She looked around at all the smiling faces with genuine interest and warmth that made everyone feel as if she was truly happy to meet them. But what happened next would be talked about in the village for many years to come and would become the most treasured memory that any of the villagers would ever have. Instead of walking quickly through a formal receiving line like many people expected, Prince William and Princess Kate did something completely different and wonderful. The royal couple immediately began moving into the crowd, stopping to chat with individual people and making everyone feel special and important. They were not in a hurry, and they seemed genuinely interested in meeting as many villagers as possible. This was not a formal royal duty, but a real human connection happening between real people. Princess Kate crouched down to speak with the children at their eye level, showing them the respect and attention that made each child feel like the most important person in the world. She accepted handmade gifts and flowers from everyone who offered them, and took time to look at each present carefully, as if it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Prince William moved through the crowd with genuine warmth, stopping to shake hands with the men and speaking kindly to the elderly residents who had waited so patiently to meet him. He asked questions about the village and listened carefully to the answers, showing real interest in their community and their lives. The royal couple worked their way slowly through the gathering, making sure to spend time with as many people as possible. They did not seem rushed or uncomfortable, but appeared to be genuinely enjoying every moment of their visit to Llanfairpwll. Young Emma Thomas, who had made one of the welcome signs, found herself standing face to face with Princess Kate. The little girl was so excited she could barely speak, but Princess Kate knelt down to her level and complimented her beautiful artwork. Emma managed to offer Kate one of Mrs. Williams' fresh Welsh cakes, and watched in amazement as the princess took a real bite and praised how delicious it was. The crowd erupted in warm laughter when Prince William also tried one of the Welsh cakes and declared it to be absolutely wonderful. Mrs. Williams, who was watching from nearby, felt tears of joy streaming down her face as she realized that royalty was actually eating and enjoying the food she had prepared with her own hands. Margaret Jones, the elderly woman who had first heard the news that morning, found herself standing close enough to actually speak with Princess Kate. The princess took time to ask about her life in the village and listened carefully as Margaret shared stories about the changes she had seen over her 70 years of living there. The security personnel watched carefully but seemed relaxed as they observed how naturally and comfortably the royal couple interacted with the villagers. Everyone was behaving with perfect respect and genuine love, making the job of keeping everyone safe much easier than expected. Children who had been nervous about meeting real royalty discovered that Prince William and Princess Kate were kind and friendly people who made them feel comfortable and special. Parents watched with pride as their children shook hands with the future King and Queen of England, creating memories that would last for their entire lives. The afternoon sun continued to shine brightly, as if blessing this perfect moment, when a small Welsh village became the center of royal attention and genuine human connection. What made this royal visit truly extraordinary was not the formal speeches or official ceremonies, but the genuine human connections that unfolded naturally between real people who happened to include members of the royal family. These were not staged moments for cameras, but authentic interactions that came from the heart and touched everyone who witnessed them. Princess Kate noticed Mrs. Roberts, an elderly woman sitting in a wheelchair who was struggling to see over the crowd despite her best efforts to get a good view. Without hesitation, Kate immediately walked over to the wheelchair and knelt down beside it so she could speak with Mrs. Roberts at eye level. She took the elderly woman's hand gently in both of hers and began asking about her life and her beautiful garden. Mrs. Roberts had tears in her eyes as she explained that she could no longer tend to her beloved flowers because of her health problems. Princess Kate listened with genuine interest and compassion, asking detailed questions about which flowers Mrs. Roberts had grown and how long she had been gardening. The conversation lasted several minutes, and everyone watching could see that both women were truly enjoying their talk. Meanwhile, Prince William had discovered a group of local veterans who were standing together wearing their military medals with obvious pride. Instead of a quick formal greeting, William spent considerable time with these men, listening carefully to their stories and thanking them for their service with such sincerity that it moved everyone watching. One of the veterans, Mr. Thomas, told Prince William about his service during the Falklands War and how proud he was to have served his country. William listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and showing genuine respect for the sacrifices these men had made. Several of the tough-weathered veterans found themselves wiping away tears as they realized how much their service meant to the future king. The most touching encounter happened when the royal couple met the Davies family, whose young son Michael had been battling leukemia for the past year. Instead of a brief formal meeting, Kate and William spent nearly 10 minutes with the entire family asking about Michael's treatment and his favorite activities while he was recovering. Princess Kate knelt down to speak with 8-year-old Michael, asking about his favorite subjects in school and what he liked to do when he was feeling well enough to play. Michael told her that he loved drawing pictures of castles and dragons, and Kate promised to remember that when she returned to her own castle. Prince William discovered that Michael was passionate about football, and they spent several minutes discussing their favorite teams and players. William asked detailed questions about which position Michael liked to play and whether he had been able to continue with his team during his treatment. The conversation was so natural and genuine that it felt like two friends talking rather than a formal royal meeting. Michael's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Davies, watched with tears of gratitude as the royal couple gave their son the kind of attention and respect that made him feel normal and special at the same time. They had worried that Michael might be too shy or tired to enjoy the royal visit, but instead he was more animated and happy than they had seen him in months. The crowd watched these interactions in respectful silence, understanding that they were witnessing something truly special and rare. People used their phones to take pictures, but they did so quietly and carefully, not wanting to disturb the genuine connections that were happening right in front of them. An elderly gentleman named Mr. Evans approached Prince William with a walking stick and a proud smile. He explained that he had been the village blacksmith for 40 years before retiring, and that he had made a special horseshoe as a gift for the royal couple. William accepted the handmade gift with obvious appreciation, examining the craftsmanship carefully and asking about the traditional techniques used to create it. Princess Kate spent time with a group of young mothers who had brought their babies and toddlers to the royal visit. She asked about their children's ages and names, showing genuine interest in each family. When one of the babies started crying, Kate helped comfort the child while chatting with the mother about the challenges and joys of raising young children. These were not photo opportunities or publicity stunts, but real human moments between people who cared about each other despite having just met. The royal couple showed genuine interest in each person they encountered, asking thoughtful questions and listening carefully to the answers. The villagers responded to this authentic attention with openness and warmth, sharing their stories and experiences without fear or hesitation. It felt like a community celebration where everyone was family, and everyone mattered equally regardless of their title or position in life. The most touching and unforgettable moment of the entire royal visit came when Prince William and Princess Kate were introduced to Mrs. Elizabeth Morgan, a 92-year-old woman who had lived in the village longer than anyone else. She sat in her wheelchair wrapped in a warm purple blanket that her granddaughter had made for her many years ago. Her eyes were bright and alert despite her advanced age. As the royal couple approached her, Mrs. Morgan began to cry with tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. She tried to speak, but her emotions were so overwhelming that the words would not come out properly. Princess Kate immediately sensed that this was a very special moment and knelt down beside the wheelchair, while Prince William moved to the other side so they could both comfort this elderly lady. Through her tears, Mrs. Morgan managed to explain that she had never expected to live long enough to meet members of the royal family in person. She had followed their lives in newspapers and on television for decades, but never dreamed that she would actually get to shake their hands and speak with them face to face. This day felt like the most wonderful gift she could have ever received. Prince William gently took her trembling hands in his while Princess Kate put a comforting arm around her shoulders. For several minutes, the three of them stood together in conversation, while the entire crowd watched in respectful silence. Even the children seemed to understand that something very important and emotional was happening. Mrs. Morgan began telling them about her late husband Robert, who had died in World War II just months before the war ended. She had been a young bride of only 20 years old when she received the terrible news that Robert would never be coming home to her. She raised their daughter, Mary, completely alone while working in a munitions factory to support them both. She spoke about the long, lonely years after the war when she struggled to make ends meet, but never lost her faith or her love for her country and the royal family. Following the lives of the royals through newspapers and television had brought her comfort and hope through decades of both joy and sorrow. The royal family had felt like distant relatives who helped her feel connected to something larger than her own struggles. Princess Kate listened with tears in her own eyes as Mrs. Morgan shared her life story. Kate told her that she was an inspiration and that her strength and dedication to her family and community were exactly the qualities that made Britain great. These words meant everything to Mrs. Morgan, who had sometimes wondered if her sacrifices had mattered to anyone. Prince William asked about her daughter Mary and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Mrs. Morgan's face lit up as she talked about her family and how proud she was of each of them. She explained that Mary had become a nurse and had dedicated her life to helping others, just as Mrs. Morgan had taught her to do. As Mrs. Morgan finished sharing her story, there was not a dry eye anywhere in the crowd. Even the security personnel and photographers seemed deeply moved by the raw emotion and genuine connection they were witnessing. This was not a planned moment or a publicity event, but a real human interaction between people who cared about each other. The elderly residents from the care home who were watching nearby felt especially emotional as they saw one of their own being treated with such respect and kindness by the future king and queen. Many of them had similar stories of loss and sacrifice from their younger years, and seeing Mrs. Morgan honored in this way made them feel that their own experiences mattered too. Princess Kate leaned down and kissed Mrs. Morgan gently on the cheek while telling her that meeting her had been the highlight of their entire visit to the village. Prince William promised that they would never forget meeting her and that her story would stay with them always. These promises felt absolutely genuine to everyone who heard them. Mrs. Morgan managed to stop crying long enough to thank the royal couple for their kindness and for taking time to listen to an old woman's memories. She said that this day had given her more happiness than she had felt in years, and that she would treasure these moments for whatever time she had left. The crowd remained silent for several more minutes as the emotional impact of this encounter settled over everyone present. People realized they had witnessed something precious and rare that would become part of the village history forever. Many villagers later said that watching Mrs. Morgan receive such genuine love and attention from Prince William and Princess Kate had restored their faith in the goodness of human nature. Even the children in the crowd seemed to understand that they had seen something important about kindness, respect, and the value of every person regardless of their age or circumstances. As the royal visit continued through the afternoon, something beautiful and unexpected began happening throughout the crowd of villagers. Inspired by the genuine warmth and sincere attention that Prince William and Princess Kate were showing to each person they met, the people of the Landferpel began turning that same kindness and consideration toward each other in ways they had never done before. Neighbors who had barely spoken to each other in years suddenly found themselves chatting like old friends as they shared in the excitement and wonder of this extraordinary day. Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Hughes, who had lived next door to each other for 15 years, but had never had a real conversation, discovered they had many things in common as they waited together to meet the royal couple. The two women began talking about their gardens and their grandchildren, and realized they had been missing out on a wonderful friendship all these years. They made plans to have tea together the following week and promised to help each other with their gardening projects. This new friendship was born directly from the spirit of connection and community that the royal visit had inspired. Children who had been too shy or nervous to speak to Prince William and Princess Kate found courage and confidence by watching their friends step forward with boldness and enthusiasm. Little Timothy Roberts, who was normally very quiet, surprised everyone, including himself, by offering Princess Kate a drawing he had made of the Welsh dragon. Kate accepted his gift with such genuine appreciation that Timothy beamed with pride for the rest of the day. The local teenagers, who had initially hung back trying to look cool and unimpressed, gradually moved closer to the action, drawn in by the authentic atmosphere of community celebration and genuine human connection. They discovered that there was nothing embarrassing about feeling excited and proud of their village and their royal visitors. 16-year-old Sarah Davies found herself helping elderly residents get better viewing positions and making sure young children did not get lost in the crowd. She had never considered herself particularly helpful or community-minded before, but something about the day inspired her to think about others and look for ways to make everyone feel included and comfortable. Even visitors from neighboring towns who had driven over when they heard about the royal visit found themselves welcomed warmly by locals who insisted on sharing their viewing spots and offering homemade refreshments. Complete strangers were treating each other like family members celebrating a special occasion together. The village brass band played softly in the background, providing beautiful music that added to the magical atmosphere without overwhelming the conversations and interactions taking place throughout the crowd. Their gentle melodies seemed to weave all the separate moments together into one harmonious experience that everyone shared. Local business owners began offering free refreshments to anyone who wanted them without being asked or expecting anything in return. Mr. Jenkins, who ran the small grocery store, brought out bottles of water and juice for people who were getting thirsty from standing in the sun. Mrs. Evans from the tea shop carried trays of biscuits through the crowd, offering them to children and adults alike. People shared umbrellas, folding chairs, and warm blankets without hesitation or expectation of repayment. When someone needed help reaching a better viewing spot or assistance with their children, multiple neighbors immediately stepped forward to offer support. The entire community had transformed into one big extended family working together to make sure everyone enjoyed this special day. The genuine kindness being demonstrated by Prince William and Princess Kate had created a ripple effect that spread throughout the entire gathering like rings spreading across a calm pond after a stone is thrown into the water. Each act of royal kindness inspired multiple acts of community kindness that continued to multiply throughout the afternoon. Parents noticed that their children were being more polite and considerate than usual. Children observed their parents being more patient and generous with strangers. Elderly residents felt more valued and included than they had in months. Young people discovered the satisfaction that comes from helping others and contributing to community spirit. The photographers and journalists who had come to cover the royal visit found themselves documenting not just the official meetings, but also the countless small moments of human connection and kindness happening throughout the crowd. They realized they were witnessing something much more significant than a typical royal appearance. Even the security personnel commented among themselves about how naturally and beautifully the crowd was managing itself, with everyone looking out for each other's safety and comfort. The positive energy and mutual respect made their job much easier and more pleasant than they had expected. The afternoon sun continued to shine warmly on this gathering of neighbors who were discovering new things about each other and about the power of community spirit when it is inspired by genuine leadership and authentic human connection. As the formal part of the royal visit began to wind down, and Prince William and Princess Kate prepared for their departure, the impact of their presence had already begun transforming the village of Llanfairpwll in ways that would continue long after their car disappeared around the corner. The changes were both immediate and profound, touching every person who had witnessed this extraordinary afternoon. The children who had met the royal couple personally would carry those precious memories with them for the rest of their lives. They would grow up telling their own children and grandchildren about the magical day when they shook hands with the future King and Queen of England in their own small village. These memories would shape their understanding of leadership, kindness, and the importance of treating every person with dignity and respect. 8-year-old Emma Thomas, who had offered Princess Kate a Welsh cake, kept touching the hand that Kate had shaken as if she could still feel the warmth of that royal handshake. She told her mother that she wanted to become a princess herself someday, so she could make other people feel as special as Princess Kate had made her feel. Young Michael Davies, whose battle with leukemia had brought him face to face with Prince William, felt stronger and more hopeful than he had in months. The genuine interest and encouragement he had received from the future king had given him renewed determination to fight his illness and pursue his dreams of playing football again when he recovered. Mrs. Elizabeth Morgan, the 92-year-old war widow, found herself surrounded by neighbors she had never really known before. People who had lived on her street for years were suddenly eager to hear more of her stories and to offer their friendship and support. The royal recognition of her sacrifices and strength had shown the entire community what a treasure they had been overlooking in their midst. Margaret Jones, who had first heard the royal announcement that morning, discovered that sharing this incredible experience had connected her with neighbors in ways she had never expected. People stopped by her cottage in the days that followed, wanting to talk about the royal visit, and gradually developing genuine friendships that enriched all their lives. The community center volunteers realized they had generated enough interest and enthusiasm to launch several new programs they had only dreamed about before. The royal visit had shown them how much their neighbors wanted to be involved in community activities and how willing people were to work together for common goals. Mrs. Williams, the baker, found that her Welsh cakes had become famous throughout the region after Prince William and Princess Kate had praised them so publicly. Orders began coming in from neighboring towns, and she decided to expand her bakery to meet the demand. More importantly, she had gained confidence in her abilities and pride in her traditional Welsh recipes. James Roberts, the local photographer, realized he had captured much more than images of a royal visit. His photographs documented the transformation of community spirit that had taken place during those magical hours. He decided to create a special exhibition showing not just the royal couple, but the faces of his neighbors as they experienced joy, wonder, and connection together. The village council members began discussing plans for annual community celebration events, inspired by how beautifully their residents had come together for this special day. They realized that the royal visit had revealed strengths and resources within their community that they had never fully recognized or utilized before. Even the teenagers who had initially tried to maintain their cool detachment found themselves talking about organizing volunteer projects and community service initiatives. They had been inspired by the example of service and dedication they had witnessed from Prince William and Princess Kate, and wanted to find ways to contribute meaningfully to their own community. The local school teachers noticed immediate changes in their students who had participated in the royal visit. The children showed increased confidence in their schoolwork and greater interest in learning about history, leadership, and public service. They began asking more questions about how they could make positive differences in their own community. The elderly residents of the care home experienced a renewed sense of connection to the wider community. Neighbors who had rarely visited before began stopping by regularly to hear their stories and ensure they felt included in village activities. The royal visit had reminded everyone of the wisdom and experience that older residents could share. Local business owners reported that the spirit of cooperation and mutual support that had emerged during the royal visit continued to influence how people treated each other in their daily transactions. Customers were more patient and considerate, while shop owners were more generous and helpful than they had been before. The brass band members decided to continue meeting regularly and performing at community events throughout the year. Their successful performance for the royal couple had reminded them how much joy their music could bring to their neighbors and how important cultural activities were for community spirit. Most significantly, the royal visit had shown the people of Llanfairpwll that their small village was worthy of attention and celebration. They had gained confidence in themselves and pride in their community that would influence how they approached challenges and opportunities in the future. Long after the sleek black royal car had disappeared around the corner and the crowds had dispersed to their homes carrying precious memories in their hearts, the impact of that extraordinary afternoon continued to resonate through every corner of the village of Llanfairpwll. The changes that had begun during those magical hours with Prince William and Princess Kate grew stronger and deeper with each passing day, creating a lasting legacy that would influence the community for generations to come. In the weeks and months that followed, neighbors continued to check on each other more regularly than they ever had before. The genuine care and attention they had witnessed from the royal couple had inspired them to show the same level of concern and kindness toward their own community members. Simple acts like helping with groceries, asking about family members, and offering assistance with household tasks became natural parts of daily life in the village. Mrs. Elizabeth Morgan, the 92-year-old war widow who had shared her emotional story with Prince William and Princess Kate, became something of a local celebrity and treasure. People stopped by her cottage regularly to hear more of her fascinating stories about life during and after World War II. She was no longer lonely or forgotten, but had become the beloved storyteller and historian of the village. The young mothers organized a regular coffee group that met weekly at the community center. They had been inspired by Princess Kate's genuine interest in their children and families and wanted to create ongoing support networks for each other. These gatherings became opportunities to share parenting advice, celebrate milestones, and provide practical help when families face challenges. The community center experienced a remarkable transformation with increased participation in all their existing programs and enough enthusiasm to launch several new initiatives. The royal visit had shown residents how much joy and satisfaction could come from working together on community projects, and they were eager to continue that spirit of cooperation and mutual support. The children who had met Prince William and Princess Kate showed remarkable changes in their confidence levels and their interest in learning. Teachers reported that these students were asking more thoughtful questions about history, government, and public service. Many of them expressed desires to find ways they could help other people in their community, just as they had seen the royal couple do. Young Michael Davies, whose battle with leukemia had brought him special attention from Prince William, continued to fight his illness with renewed strength and determination. The encouragement he had received from the future king had given him a powerful source of motivation during his most difficult treatments. His positive attitude inspired other families dealing with serious health challenges. The village businesses reported ongoing benefits from the increased sense of community spirit that had emerged during the royal visit. Customers treated shop owners with greater respect and patience, while business owners looked for ways to contribute more generously to community needs. The local economy flourished as people chose to support their neighbors rather. Long after the sleek black royal car had disappeared around the corner and the crowds had dispersed to their homes carrying precious memories in their hearts, the impact of that extraordinary afternoon continued to resonate through every corner of the village of Llanfairpwll. The changes that had begun during those magical hours with Prince William and Princess Kate grew stronger and deeper with each passing day, creating a lasting legacy that would influence the community for generations to come. In the weeks and months that followed, neighbors continued to check on each other more regularly than they ever had before. The genuine care and attention they had witnessed from the royal couple had inspired them to show the same level of concern and kindness toward their own community members. Simple acts like helping with groceries, asking about family members, and offering assistance with household tasks became natural parts of daily life in the village. Mrs. Elizabeth Morgan, the 92-year-old war widow who had shared her emotional story with Prince William and Princess Kate, became something of a local celebrity and treasure. People stopped by her cottage regularly to hear more of her fascinating stories about life during and after World War II. She was no longer lonely or forgotten, but had become the beloved storyteller and historian of the village. The young mothers organized a regular coffee group that met weekly at the community center. They had been inspired by Princess Kate's genuine interest in their children and families and wanted to create ongoing support networks for each other. These gatherings became opportunities to share parenting advice, celebrate milestones, and provide practical help when families face challenges. The community center experienced a remarkable transformation with increased participation in all their existing programs and enough enthusiasm to launch several new initiatives. The royal visit had shown residents how much joy and satisfaction could come from working together on community projects, and they were eager to continue that spirit of cooperation and mutual support. The children who had met Prince William and Princess Kate showed remarkable changes in their confidence levels and their interest in learning. Teachers reported that these students were asking more thoughtful questions about history, government, and public service. Many of them expressed desires to find ways they could help other people in their community, just as they had seen the royal couple do. Young Michael Davies, whose battle with leukemia had brought him special attention from Prince William, continued to fight his illness with renewed strength and determination. The encouragement he had received from the future king had given him a powerful source of motivation during his most difficult treatments. His positive attitude inspired other families dealing with serious health challenges. The village businesses reported ongoing benefits from the increased sense of community spirit that had emerged during the royal visit. Customers treated shop owners with greater respect and patience, while business owners looked for ways to contribute more generously to community needs. The local economy flourished as people chose to support their neighbors rather than shopping in larger towns. Mrs. Williams' bakery became a gathering place where people came not just to buy bread and cakes, but to share news and maintain the connections they had discovered during the royal visit. Her traditional Welsh cakes gained fame throughout the region, and she hired 2 local teenagers to help meet the increased demand, providing valuable work experience for young people in the community. The teenagers, who had been inspired by the royal couple's example of service, organized monthly volunteer projects, including helping elderly residents with garden maintenance, organizing charity drives for families in need, and reading to children at the local library. These young people discovered the satisfaction that comes from contributing meaningfully to their community. James Roberts, the photographer, created a permanent exhibition of his pictures from the royal visit that became a source of pride and inspiration for the entire village. Visitors from other communities came to see the photographs and learn about how one special day had transformed an entire town. The exhibition reminded residents daily of their capacity for kindness and unity. The brass band continued to perform regularly at community events, bringing music and joy to celebrations throughout the year. Their confidence had been boosted by their successful performance for Prince William and Princess Kate, and they discovered how much their music meant to their neighbors' emotional well-being. Most importantly, the photographs and videos from that magical day became treasured family heirlooms that were shared with visiting relatives and friends as proof that extraordinary things could still happen in ordinary places. Children who had been too young to remember the details learned about the day through these images and stories passed down by their parents and grandparents. The royal visit had served as a powerful reminder that genuine human connection, kindness, and community spirit are values that transcend social boundaries and economic differences. The people of Llanfairpwll had discovered that they possessed the same qualities of warmth, generosity, and mutual support that they had admired in Prince William and Princess Kate. Years later, when visitors asked residents about the most important day in their village history, everyone would smile and begin telling the story of the afternoon when royalty came to Llanfairpwll. But they would always emphasize that the real magic had not been in meeting famous people, but in discovering the extraordinary capacity for love and community that had existed within their neighbors all along. The legacy of that touching royal arrival continued to influence how the villagers treated each other, how they raised their children, and how they approached challenges and opportunities as a unified community. Prince William and Princess Kate had given them much more than a royal visit. They had given them a new understanding of their own potential for creating positive change in the world around them. The story of that magical day became a testament to the power of authentic leadership, genuine human connection, and the beautiful things that can happen when people choose to treat each other with dignity, respect, and love. The touching arrival of William and Kate had indeed melted the crowd, but more importantly, it had melted the barriers between neighbors and created bonds that would last for generations to come.